Hey guys, in this update, we're going to talk about the continuing high interest rate environment. And I'm going to touch on Victorian businesses getting taxed 200% more. And we're going to round it off with some housing shortfall stuff. I want to talk specifically on immigration being a major factor for the problems we're seeing with our housing stuff. Let's get into it. Continuing higher interest rate environment. So I've been talking about this for a while, and really what I'm doing is all my clients and what I've been doing for a long time now is positioning them for the potential fact that the current environment is the new norm and it's going to be up and around this kind of mark for a little while longer yet. This is something that earlier this year, at the start of this year, all the media and all of the economists were saying they're expecting some drops at the end of this year and for it to drop significantly.
Inflation hopefully continues to come down.
We are seeing a few people predicting a cut late this year.
This time next year, the cash rate will have been cut twice.
I would generally agree with that kind of angle. The only thing that I'm conscious of is the fact that our government has propped up the economy by creating these jobs with spending. It's been borrowed money. Just today on the news, I saw something about New South Wales. They're going to cut a lot of their public employees. Apparently they've got 450,000 employees hired by the New South Wales government, which is pretty phenomenal. I actually Googled Victoria and it said it was around 300,000. So it gives you some idea of the scope of government spending that's going around. I look at the infrastructure spending. So the infrastructure spending that obviously got announced before COVID and then during COVID again, all of that money hasn't spent yet. And actually the bulk of that money is it's still going to keep on going up for another 1 or 2 years. So the reason why rates go up in the first place is so that people will stop spending money in the economy and they'll stop borrowing money, number one, because that creates money. And then they'll stop spending money because that creates more inflation. What will happen as a result of higher interest rates is people focus less on spending and more on paying down debts. As a result, what happens is that money gets taken out of the economy because when you pay a debt back, it basically vanishes into thin air. Just like when you create debt, it just magically appears. The problem is, this is the thing where governments want to support the economy. The central bank pushing rates up to try and put that dampener on the economy. And the real dampener is when people feel like their jobs are at threat, right? Because if you feel that your job is at threat and you may not get another job, you will stop spending and you will save and you will pay down debt. That's not the environment we're in at the moment. We're in an environment where, if I lose my job today, who cares? I'll get another job tomorrow and I'll probably get paid a little bit more at my new job. So this is the reasoning behind what we're going through now. So a general cycle is what I've explained. Higher interest rates should lead to unemployment. We haven't seen unemployment go up meaningfully yet. We're still technically at full employment, and my belief is that's because government spending has been so high that it's backstopped the employment market. Probably not a good idea, even though hindsight's 2020, and I respect the fact that governments had to make bad calls in COVID. But that's where I stand with interest rates at the moment. The only way they're going to come down is if there's a bit of strife in the stock market, because if there's strife in the stock markets, companies will look to save money, and they do that by laying off people. So unemployment needs to go up there. I want to move on to Victorian businesses, small businesses getting paid 200%. This came out in the media a week or two ago, just highlighting the fact that it's actually not easy at small business level. I'm a small business myself. I deal with a number of small businesses and most of them are saying the same. It's hard to earn a dollar. I get the feeling that when you run a small business, you should have that extra premium for, the extra work you're doing in the economy. I think a lot of small businesses would say that premium is not there anymore. It's just working hard. And actually what a lot of businesses are questioning at the moment is, do I continue? The taxes keep going up 200% in Victoria. Maybe I just shut down here in Victoria. Maybe I move up to Queensland like a lot of other people are doing. And even some people are packing up and they're moving to Southeast Asia where the expenses are a lot less. So I just wanted to touch on that because a lot of people are kind of in their own world. And what I've been seeing the last kind of 4 or 5 years is you can ignore it to a point where it starts it really starts hurting, and then it gets real and you have to make real decisions. So on my YouTube channel, that's basically been what I've been talking about. I've been saying that whatever we've been conditioned to believe, we're slowly starting to change our attitudes and realize that our government hasn't been doing the right thing by its citizens. And as a result, the citizens, especially the guys on the bottom, are starting to realize that they're not as wealthy as what they thought they were. A good example of that is people's wages have gone up, but their expenses have gone up a lot quicker than their wages, so they can actually buy less with what they're making. The last thing I want to add on for this update is property shortage. I'm going to share with you a link to a thumbnail which shows some data around, what are we talking about? Immigration. It shows data around the immigration. So it shows up until about the year 2000. It averaged about 80,000 up until the year 2000. And then from the year 2000 up until COVID, it was around that 160 mark. So they effectively doubled the immigration. So if you want to look purely at that stat and try and isolate it, you can see what's happened since the year 2000, and you don't have to look up any graphs. You can quickly figure it out. Property prices have skyrocketed. I think in this area, they're probably up 500 or 600% from memory. If you isolate that, it's quite easy to see that the supply from net immigration has doubled because the amount of people have doubled. And obviously last year, I think it was a bit higher than that. I think it was 500,000 on that might have been 2022. Our politicians on both sides are embarking on these policies where basically they can make the economy look stronger, because the more people you import into the country, the more it puts the GDP up, which is the total amount that we've all spent as a nation. So they're kind of cooking the books and not actually telling everyone that, hey, our economy, despite the fact that we've got all these resources and all of this stuff the world want that we can dig up from our backyard, we're really poor. That's where people are coming to now. They are actually poor, and what I want to say was the reason why governments have been able to get away with this is because they can print money. I saw the other day in Victoria, nurses get a 28% pay rise over the next 4 years. No disrespect to nurses, I think they're worth every cent, but we have to understand that creating this money out of thin air, which is what's happening because the government is spending more than what they're earning, is going to create inflation. And this is the thing that really pisses me off, to be frank, is that our government don't understand basic stuff. But if you or I did that for long enough, we would go bankrupt, right? And then we would have to cop the consequences of that. So normal people don't go bankrupt, but seemingly it's okay for our government to be pushing the boundaries. Let's just say that when it comes to putting our finances in peril. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to mean that it's not going to be as nice a place as it was to live. I'll admit that Melbourne is a pretty nice place to live. If you compare it to other places in the world, we can complain a lot, but at the end of the day, we still have a nice place. What I'd like, and I think what most Melburnians would like, is for it not to decline. And that's the real risk, is that it slips back into a place where there's less opportunity, there's more angry people, there's more psycho people. You know, if you look around today, it's probably actually happening. So I hate to be the sort of guy that talks negative, but the truth is that we have to be realistic about the world we live in. And if we want to chase things like financial freedom, not saying being rich, just having enough money to live your life, then that responsibility is solely 100% on us. And if you're relying on government or some social justice body to come in and save the day, it's not. They're just making noise and they're creating attention for each other. It's got nothing to do with the average person. So that is my message, is 100% responsibility for your outcomes. I know that's hard, but that's where it's at, because the government's not coming to help you.